Ready?
Yep, ready.
Hi, welcome back everyone. Andrew Crossley, property advisor and founder of Australian Property Advisory Group.com.au. Today I've got Andrew Bergen from Lime Financial Services. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
It's always great when you come across someone with the same name.
A bit of an echo in here.
Easy to remember.
That's right. Yeah.
Look, I've invited you here today to discuss self-managed super fund lending rather than advice on self-managed super funds.
Sure.
Let's be very clear about that.
Yep.
Because ASIC are taking a firm stance on people seeking the correct advice from the most suitably qualified person.
Correct. Yeah.
But the most important thing when it comes to a person getting a loan, what's a common mistake a person makes when they come to you seeking a loan?
I think the most common one is getting the right advice in the first place, because that's a real issue. We need to have people who understand the process and understand what needs to be set up before they even go near a property and sign a contract. Too often we see people will get a small amount of advice from someone who's maybe not licensed to give that advice, and then go and enter into a contract and have to undo all this mess. Like anything, it's a process you have to go through, and as long as you know the steps in the process, then we can handle all of that. But it's really making sure that clients are aware of that up front, whether we physically do it or not, is being aware of the entire process so we can direct them to the right people to talk to.
And the most important thing the person should remember is you cannot get advice from just anybody, and a mortgage broker cannot give you advice on whether you should buy in your self-managed super fund, nor can a property advisor. You really need to go to a financial planner.
That's right.
To conform with the regulations. And when a person has sought the right advice and they come to you, what will make the process simpler in applying for the loan?
I think the thing that makes it simple is having all your documentation done up front and having the clients who feel very comfortable with the transaction because they've actually received a well mapped out process in terms of what they need to do. So certainly having a good financial planner, having a good accountant, and also a lawyer or conveyancer who is understanding of the process. So we liaise with a lot of experts in that area, and we know the transactions, the ones that go really well are where we've got those people behind us. Where they don't go so well is where they maybe got advice from someone who's actually not qualified to give that advice. And that's probably one of the biggest issues we see is traditionally everyone went to their accountant for anything to do with finance.
Yes.
Whereas nowadays you need to actually find a specialist in each area. So we find we've had accountants who have been advising people on their financial affairs, which is maybe a little bit beyond what they should be doing. And also talking about credit advice as well, which again may be outside the gambit of what they're able to talk about. And they might certainly have knowledge in those areas, but they may not be totally up to date. What we're finding with the legislation around SMSF is it's very dynamic, changing all the time. Lending rules change all the time, so we need to be on top of that.
And the most important thing with using a broker with self-managed super fund lending is using the right broker. Not every broker has enough knowledge to give you the right credit advice with seeking a loan for a self-managed super fund product. And you certainly need to be mindful that there are different lenders out there, and it's very important that you go to a broker rather than a lender, because different lenders might suit your circumstances more than some others, and some actually take 3 or 4 months and really drag their feet, whereas others are much more speedy about their process.
That's right, and they're the things we need to take into account, and also whether it's an off-the-plan purchase or an existing dwelling or things like that really affect the outcome you have through the lending process and as to who will approve a loan and who won't. And if we look at all the lenders we deal with, only about a quarter of them actually will do a self-managed super fund loan. So we've had people referred to us from some of the major banks, believe it or not, that don't actually do SMSF loans or don't have the timeframes that suit our client.
Yes.
We always try and get clients to sign, a longer settlement period of a contract, but sometimes it's not always possible. And we've actually had people go to a bank being told, no, we cannot do it, we're going to have a chat to your broker. So that's where we can actually match the right product and lender with the client for that particular circumstance. Documentation requirements are generally pretty much the same, but there are some differences as well. So that can also save a bit of time and effort.
Great. Thanks for getting together today.
No problem, Andrew.
It's always good to see you.
Thank you. You too, mate.
And thank you everyone for joining us. I hopefully that information has been very useful. It is critical that you get things right in the self-managed super fund space. I look forward to having you tune in again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see how that went.